The hour 6:30 on Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. I call this meeting for the Council of the Corporation of Township of Terrace Bay to order. For those listening online and those in attendance here, Happy New Year. Declaration. Council of the Township of Terrace Bay hereby acknowledges that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. Item number 3, additions, deletions, or amendments. We have one addition, and that's for Bert. Talk about community church for John.
One of us.
Where do we
go under CAO on number 3?
Okay. Okay, we got one resolution here, moved by Bert Johnson, seconded by Chris Dubé. Resolved that the Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023 agenda be amended with the addition of the community church property. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, just disclosure of interest. No disclosure. Next item, adoption of minutes. Moved by Councillor Dubé, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held Monday, December 19th, 2022 be approved as presented. Are there any errors or omissions? Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, reports from administration, CAO clerk. Go ahead, John. Discussion on the committee appointments process.
Okay, so I did circulate an email with respect to the committee appointment process that took place in 2022. Councillor Dubé had sent an email to all council, or to myself, sorry, which I responded to all council with a suggestion, which I thought was a good suggestion, that we possibly formalize the process to a certain extent. We could build in, for existing committee members, they don't necessarily have to fill in a full application, but certainly it would make our job easier as administration being through it. But Chris, I don't know if you want to talk to it at all.
So I was approached by a few people after, and I'll just sort of read. I thought I put some thought into this before I sent it to John. So I'll just read what I sent to John, just so you guys are everybody's on the same page. I've had a few community members approach me since the last council meeting when we discussed committees of council, board positions. A few topics were brought to my attention that I would like to bring to you and include in our next council agenda. During the town's application process to become a member of a community council or library board member, residents are asked to submit letters expressing their interest to the township. As a council member voting on future committees and boards, I was only given a list of names of applicants with no other pertinent information or credentials to base my decision on. Moving forward, I am proposing that the township and council adopt a more thorough and rigorous approach to the selection of applicants. And this is what I was proposing, that each community member and applicant interested in committee or board positions submit a formal application that can be made available both electronically online or in paper at the township office. The application format should be the same for each committee/board, like a generic application. The application will record the applicant's contact and relevant experience and skill set in the area that the applicant is applying to. All applicants should be made available to council at the time of the agenda being released, so the council has ample time to familiarize themselves with the applicants. And so, for instance, some hypothetical situation, somebody's new to town, I don't know their name, I don't know anything about them, I don't know their previous experience, or even some people in town. I noticed, I know, Paul, with the police service board, there's a list of names, and I didn't know anybody's background on any of that. And you worked well with the previous person, and I support that for sure. But just for myself being well, if we had that information, I feel that I could say, okay, this person has this background, this person has that background, and it would create a more it would just better the choice. It's more rigorous, I believe is the term that I use, and thorough. And then that way we have all the information present. It's not just sort of looking at a name and name recognition, getting I know people, but do I really know everything that they've been involved in? Do I really know what their passions or side projects or their job history is? Not really. So I feel that that would just add a layer of that to make it, just a little bit more rigorous. Anyway, that was my thoughts going forward.
That's good. I don't know if we want to put a motion on the floor or do something with that, John, just to make sure that in 4 years from now or whatever, we're not sitting here in January, but geez, we should have did that. We forgot about it.
I think it's something administration can bring a report back with a recommendation with a sample form or sample process, and council can vote on it then whether or not to influence it. So
Can I just add one other thing? In this email as well, like I went on the Thunder Bay website and they have exactly this, and I was like, "There's no way we're reinventing the wheel, right? Something like this has to exist from other municipalities." And sure enough, it was there. And the one from Thunder Bay, I'll just quickly go through it. So yeah, what committee are you interested in? Which volunteer position are you applying for? Names, address, email, phone number, blah, blah, blah. List this, then a new paragraph, list your skill sets that you would bring to the committee or board. And then if you need, for the Thunder Bay Police Services Board, do you need a police background check? And then the other thing is include a resume or a letter of support for your application. And that I don't know if we need a letter or a resume, but maybe some sort of like that could almost be brought in with the list your skill sets that you would bring to the committee. And again, it may be like maximum 10 points, because I don't want to be reading like a 10-page resume for all these applicants. However, something be like, okay, this is the person's background and skill set. How are they compared to other people? Anyway, and I forwarded that information to John as well as part of that email.
Okay, that's good. Okay, next one. Does anyone else have a discussion on that?
I was just wondering, maybe not in the first step, but maybe down the road, we could also look at some of the needs of those committees. So say we need someone that's really good with finances for whatever reason or whatever, maybe we would be then putting together sort of even just for council's eyes only of these are some of the skill sets we need on these committees or boards. And then we can compare that to the applications. Just kind of moving on. We don't have to do it right away, but
yeah.
The only other thought was we may have a vacancy before 4 years. So if it's done before then,
yeah,
no hurry on it, right? But
we have that vacancy before the 4 years are up.
Exactly. So
yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you. Okay. Thanks, Lon.
yeah, that's something we intend to bring back more probably from about it.
Yeah.
Pretty decent turnaround. Just to have to fill the vacancies still exists. Actually, there's only one member of the accessibility committee right now, so that's something we'll have to recruit for. Same thing with the Winter Carnival committee or Winterfest committee. There's only, I think, 2 council members and possibly 1 citizen. So we need to, we've only to advertise again.
Yeah, and it may be a great way to beta test our application for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No problem.
Next item, strategic planning 2022 to 2026. Then that's about whether we're going to do it or go outside to make someone to do it.
Yeah, so I had a thought. I discussed it with Mayor Malashewski briefly, and I think I discussed it with another council, whether or not we were going to do it in the house or go out. The thought was we possibly do it in the house ourselves. Marathon has just gone through that process. Mapping it out, it looks something along the lines of that, where we start off by reviewing the existing plan, having a brainstorming session. We should definitely have a public forum to gather some feedback, see what the public thinks the direction we should be headed in. Bring it all together, create a draft plan, put that draft plan up for public comment, and then council approval of the final strategic plan. I mean, there'd be some steps in there as well too. Probably over the course of, I would think, 2 or 3 special meetings, we could probably accomplish that. Not counting the public forum as a special meeting technically, but
I think when we farmed it out, it was $20,000.
Correct.
To get it done. So, and I'm not sure how many hours did Marathon put in on it, John?
I'm not sure. I didn't ask you on that level of detail. But what I would also add to this is if we get to the before we even get to stage 3, if we make a decision and we still want to go out, we always could.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world. We could make that decision after we brainstorm and review the existing plan in pretty good detail. So, but I think it's something we're capable of as a management team, but also as a council team as a whole to do this in-house.
Well, even looking at just from my perspective, there's a lot of carryover from the last strategic plan. I feel personally that will be some carryover, so it'll eliminate that work there, right?
Certainly, it's not, it will save money. That's not the intent
Yeah.
necessarily, but I mean, that also is a positive. We need some room in the budget, so it's a good thing. So if council's good with that, of course you can still comment, but we'll proceed with putting this pathway together. Council on meeting schedules, that kind of.
Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
To go in and do it?
Yeah, the only comment was if you're gonna spend 20 grand to bring an outside permit, I'd rather spend that on implementation than planning, so.
Next item is the community church update, I guess, for people who are doing that, Bert. You want to talk about it?
Actually, I didn't know that there was things taking place since our last meeting. And so I had requested from John that.
Just the quick update for council. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to update Councillor Johnson before the holiday started. I was in contact with CMHC. We were setting up a meeting with him in the new year, which we'll still do. The application's online. It's an open door application. Luke, myself, and Stacy will take a look at it, get that application process going. That was for the seed money to determine whether the feasibility of using the existing building on the church property for a housing initiative sometime in the future. So that would really be the first step. If we are successful in getting that funding, have the study done, we can bring it back to the supportive housing committee and move forward. I would think that will council as well, but once the study's back saying, yes, this building is feasible. If it's not, we'll have to talk about knocking it down potentially. So
Exactly.
What kind of timeline would we be looking at then for that?
I guess it really depends on how fast the application, as it is an open door application process, how fast they can get a process. In talking to our contact, it doesn't seem like it'd be that onerous. It seems like it's moving pretty quickly. Really would be hiring someone to do the work, the assessment after that. That might take a bit of time, but I would think we could have this done towards the end of the first quarter if the application process.
So are we gonna have them, if we can add on to that building, or is that, we're just gonna say, this is what we want to use for senior housing, we don't want to build onto it?
Something to that effect. Is this building feasible for a housing project, period? And have them go through it, and they can say, structurally it's sound. However, with modern, it'd be cheaper to build new with modern construction methods. It's hard to say what they're face. So the church was built, I think, sometime in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
So it isn't new per se, but it's also an 1800s house from Southern Ontario kind of thing. So construction is relatively new for Canada. So.
Any questions on that? No. Okay, thanks, John and Bert.
We'll proceed then. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, Mr. Mulligan, finance or water rates.
Earlier, council must approve water rates or any changes to the water rates on the annual basis. The water rates must be approved through a separate bylaw, and as such, it's being presented for council's review and adopted. These rates are being proposed at an increase of 3% from 2022. A proposed rate increase, as per Watson Economist's water rate study presented to council in February 2022, is recommended to offset the water system operating cost and add approximately $28,000 to the water system reserve. That reserve currently sits at $584,000. Council's information, the water rate increase history is as follows. So you can see we went 4.5, 4.5, 2, then 3, and now proposed 3% increase. So the 2023 water rate subject to approval will bring in approximately $29,000 more than in 2022, totaling approximately $996,000. Residents would see a $24.41 per year or $6.10 per bill impact with this increase. So the options are A, council approve the water rates for the 2023 year as presented and the appropriate bylaw be brought forward, or B, council do not approve the water rates for the 2023 year as presented and direct administration otherwise. Recommendation is option A.
Any questions? And Danny, I know you handed that sheet around for Bill's information there. We're probably on the lower end of of our water rates are about in the middle.
For water rates, we hover around the middle, but with when you factor in tax rates and all that, again, that is from 2019, we are on the lower end of the spectrum for all municipalities.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, moved by Counselor Johnson, seconded by Counselor Duno. Resolved that council approve the water rates for the 2023 year as presented and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. Any other questions on that motion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Next item on the agenda, item number 7, child care spaces. Luke, are you going to speak about that or John?
Councilor Dubé had actually asked to bring the communication forward, and an item prior to the holidays, but I did, so maybe he wants to speak to it first.
No, go right ahead.
I did ask him to just sort of give a rundown verbally of what sort of actions he's taken so far on bringing daycare or childcare to Terrace Bay.
Yeah, so last year, through discussions with DSAB, they had identified that the first thing we need to do is have a needs assessment for our area that'll actually determine would Terrace Bay support the child care center, is there a need for it in our community. Reached out to several different research centers. The Northern Policy Institute is willing to do a needs assessment for us. That cost would come in at about $5,000. Been identified like in the draft of the 2023 budget. Timelines for that is 3 to 6 months, depending how thorough it is, what's all going to be included. And within that, that's what we would bring forward to DSAP as our evidence for child care in the area. Regarding this specific announcement by the Ontario government, CTV reports that the Thunder Bay region has been flagged for 419 expanded or new centers, but I couldn't find that on the Ontario website. Have reached out to DSAB to see if they have any more information on will they be advocating for Terrace Bay, or do they have any additional information on expansion versus new centers? I haven't heard back yet, but hoping to hear back shortly. I think that's most of the information. Certainly the news release talks about how it is a grant funding, but to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a portal or link or application form to actually seek that funding at the moment.
Yeah, or like an opening or a closing date or anything. It's literally just an announcement.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Luke, you said 419 centers. Did you say centers or spaces? Anyways,
Yeah. Either an expanded space, like on an existing one, or a new space.
But you're not saying 419 kids extra space?
No, in the Thunder Bay region, like for all their daycare centers.
Okay.
Supposedly there's going to be an increase of that amount.
Yeah.
Not kids, but
Yeah. Okay.
centers themselves.
Any questions on that?
Just, I guess, maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't. At the end of the day, is it DSAP's decision whether you will pay for the report to say, hey, we think that we need one? Is it still DSAP's decision at the end of the day to say yes or no?
Ultimately, no. Like you could start a daycare center.
Yeah, I mean, to be eligible for the particular funding or anything like that, is that all run through the?
If you believe that the actual center themselves applies for the funding, however, DSAB subsidizes funding and they would be impacted in it. DSAB can also support with funding for centers. But I'm not positive how it exactly shapes up.
Fair enough.
I think we have to wait for the application to see who is administering the funds.
John?
Also, if we were able to establish there's a market here for it and just attract a private daycare, that would require any such necessarily. That's something we've looked at in the past as well. We've spoken to the YMCA at Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah, the YMCA is interested in having a center, but they had said that they would need DSAB on board, partially for funding. And DSAB had said get a needs assessment, which is why we're here.
Well, my question, John, I know township pays DSAD, I don't know, $100,000 a year. Would they have to, if DSAB looks after it, would we have to, put more money into the town?
We would probably have to put some funding in as well too, unless again, a market operator came into the picture, which could happen. And again, I don't necessarily know we could force DSAB, even if the assessment would have to be pretty one way or the other for them to make a decision, I would think so. They have had subsidized spaces in the community before, and subsequently that center closed. DSAB pulled funding, obviously, because it closed. And
So in that situation, what happened first? Did the funding get pulled or it closed?
no, I believe the center closed. Yeah. So nowhere else to fund that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay, sorry, final question. Young kids comes up often in families, right? So, in our assessment, would we include the whole area or just our community? Scriber, Jackfish, Rossport, because they would be regional.
Like, yeah, Terrace Bay Regional.
Yeah.
And the needs assessment may say that we can't support one.
Sure.
And then we would move forward from there.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to say no to something when you have data, or it's a lot easier to say yes to it when you do as well.
And it may say that we wouldn't support a center, but we would support a at-home business center. It'd be a range of outcomes.
Appreciate that, Luke. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke and John. Okay, next item, other business and resolution. Oh, sorry, bylaws. Moved by Councillor Naduno, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Resolved that council approve bylaw 1-2023 to establish 2023 water rates to be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the third day of January 2023. Any questions on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried?
Should have been a doctor.
Okay, other business and resolutions. Any other business? Nothing? Nothing in camera? Any questions? Bill, do you have any questions?
Only describe a media center online, Your Worship.
Okay.
I don't think there's any questions from the public online, so.
Next item here, moved by Councillor Johnson and seconded by Councillor Naduno. Resolved that our next regular council meeting be held on Monday, January 16th, 2023. All in favor? Opposed? Carried? Next item here, moved by Councillor Naduno, seconded by Councillor Johnson. Resolved that we now adjourn at 18:53. All in favor? Opposed? Carried? Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.